Silence and Solitude, Finding God in Quiet Moments. Welcome back to our series on Introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francis de Sales. In today's episode, we will focus on the importance of silence and solitude in our spiritual journey. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, St. Francis de Sales teaches that finding quiet moments to be alone with God is essential for deepening our relationship with Him. Let's explore how we can embrace silence and solitude to hear God's voice more clearly and grow in holiness. The need for silence in a noisy world. St. Francis de Sales reminds us that the world is filled with noise and distractions that can pull us away from God. We are constantly bombarded with information, social media, and the demands of daily life. In the midst of this chaos, silence becomes a sacred space where we can reconnect with God and listen to His voice. Silence allows us to hear God's gentle whispers, guiding us and comforting us. It is in the quiet moments of our lives that we can experience His presence most intimately. St. Francis de Sales encourages us to regularly seek out silence, even if only for a few minutes, to find peace and clarity in our relationship with God. For example, consider a novice who, amidst the busyness of community life, sets aside time each morning for silent reflection. In these moments of stillness, he finds peace, gains perspective, and strengthens his connection with God. The value of solitude. Along with silence, solitude is a vital part of the devout life. Solitude is not just physical isolation, but a state of mind and heart where we can be alone with God. It allows us to step away from the distractions and busyness of life and enter into a deeper communion with the Lord. St. Francis de Sales teaches that solitude is a time for reflection, self-examination, and prayer. It is a time to be honest with ourselves and with God, bringing our struggles, fears, and hopes to Him. Solitude creates the space for God to work in our hearts, transforming us and leading us closer to holiness. The obstacles to silence and solitude. While silence and solitude are essential for spiritual growth, there are obstacles that can make it difficult to embrace them. St. Francis points out some common challenges. Obstacle number 1: distractions and busyness. The distractions and busyness of life can prevent us from seeking silence and solitude. We may feel like we don't have time for quiet moments with God. But St. Francis de Sales encourages us to prioritize these moments even if they are very brief. Obstacle number 2: discomfort with silence. Many of us may feel uncomfortable with silence. We are so used to constant noise and activity that being still can feel unsettling. However, St. Francis de Sales reminds us that silence is where we encounter God most profoundly, and it's worth pushing through the initial discomfort to experience His presence in our lives. Practical ways to cultivate silence and solitude. How can we cultivate silence and solitude in our daily lives? Here are a few practical steps that St. Francis de Sales suggests. Step number 1. Create sacred spaces. Create sacred spaces where you can be alone with God. Whether it's a quiet corner in your home, a chapel, or a peaceful spot in nature, having a designated place for silence helps you step away from distractions. Step number 2. Set aside time for silence. Set aside specific times for silence and solitude. Even if it's just a few minutes each day, make a commitment to spend time in quiet prayer and reflection. Step number 3. Embrace moments of stillness. Embrace moments of stillness throughout your day. Whether it's during a break at work, a walk in the park, or while waiting for an appointment, use these moments to turn your heart toward God. The fruits of silence and solitude. St. Francis de Sales teaches that silence and solitude bear beautiful fruits in our lives. They lead us to greater clarity, peace, and spiritual renewal. In these quiet moments, we find the space to listen to God, reflect on His Word, and grow in our relationship with Him. Silence and solitude allow us to experience God's presence more deeply. They give us the opportunity to rest in His love, gain perspective on our lives, and be renewed in our commitment to Him. As we conclude today's session, let's reflect on a few key takeaways about silence and solitude. Number 1. Silence allows us to hear God's voice. In the quiet, we encounter God more intimately and gain clarity in our spiritual journey. Number 2. Solitude is time alone with God. It's a time for reflection, prayer, and deep communion with the Lord. Number 3. Overcome obstacles to silence. Distractions and discomfort may hinder us, but prioritizing moments of silence helps us grow in our faith. Number 4. Create sacred spaces and moments for stillness. Find specific times and places for silence and solitude throughout your day. Number 5. The fruit of silence is peace and renewal. Spending time in silence and solitude brings spiritual clarity, peace, and a deeper connection with God. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the importance of silence and solitude in the devout life. I hope you feel inspired to seek moments of quiet and stillness with God. Until we meet again with another episode, live Jesus.